What's happening, YouTubers? Found this stuff on Terry versus Ohio. Now, if you haven't heard about this, it's basically the rules set up in a traffic stop for officers to conduct their business. Yeah, because it's business. It isn't about doing anything or you did anything wrong or all of that type of stuff. It's about specific rules for them to be able to get you into a position, to maybe get you to enter into a contract or to give you a ticket or to arrest you or to catch you with something illegal. Now, as this article talks about gang members and, you know, deaths and all kinds of those things, that's not going on everywhere. I mean, it is, but it's not like they're saying. They're using those situations and circumstances to be able to invade everyone's privacy. Yes, if someone is doing suspicious things, you know, and then who gets to define suspicious? It's the police officers. They can define whatever suspicious. Your hat was on crooked. I mean, come on. You know, it's just, you know, you were standing there or you were smoking a cigarette, or, okay, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it makes sense. You know, if it's 8 o'clock, it's still daylight, you know, and you're standing there at the store talking to your friend that you met him in passing, what's suspicious about that? They can determine what's suspicious and what isn't suspicious. So after you look at a Terry stop, because it's Terry versus Ohio, and it says that the United States Supreme Court absurdly recognized that law enforcement officers across the great nation needed a proactive, lawful investigative tool to combat prospective criminal activity before it occurred. Now they can read our minds. Okay? You don't need a damn, you know, decision from the Supreme Court for someone to look suspicious. You know, it's just incredible how they do these things. So they're saying that criminal activity before it occurs, Terry versus Ohio, a police officer observed 2 male suspects acting suspicious. The officer had years of experience as a police officer, suspected that they were casing a store for a holdup. Well, then go frisk the damn people. Why do you need the Supreme Court to tell you that? Because when you give them permission to do these things to these types of people, then they should already have that. They have years experience. They don't need the Supreme Court to tell them that. So they set up a guideline. They get us stuck on dummy. They do whatever they feel like they want to do, and they figure they're going to go by these guidelines, so then you can't sue them. So they say to avoid litigation, you know, avoid litigation, so they're not going to get sued for violating, you know, everything about you, or you know, just doing whatever they want. The officer approached them, grabbed one of the suspects and spun him around, and he patted the man in the outer clothing for the weapon and discovered a handgun. Well, good for him. Arrest the damn guy. You don't need the Supreme Court to tell you how to treat all of us that don't have guns. That's the thing. You know, speak your mind. If you have, you know, it's not hurting anyone. You're allowed to do that still in some cases. The Supreme Court ruled the man subjected to a seize of his person and investigative detention, not arrest. But the seizure was justified because the officer had developed facts accounting to the reasonable suspicion that the criminal activity was taking place. The court ruled that the pat-down, frisk for weapons, was justified because the officer had reasonable fear for personal safety based upon observation that suggested they were planning an armed robbery. Not everybody's planning an armed robbery, folks. Not everybody's trying to do that. Not everybody has evil intent. Okay? So it's hilarious. So proactive policing. In reaching a decision, the Supreme Court observed that law enforcement officers were constitutionally permitted to arrest lawbreakers. but according to the Constitution. That's crap. I mean, where does it in the Constitution say they can do those things? And that damn things don't apply to us, it applies to them. You know, the unforeign registered agents that aren't registered, that just do whatever they want to do. It's all wording. It's all BS to get you to fill that void in your mind so it looks like that things are right. Well, if a guy has a gun, arrest his ass. If you have to shoot him, you have to shoot him. That's the police job. It's horrible. Nobody needs to have this. This doesn't apply to me. It just doesn't. Because I'm not out there doing anything wrong, and they don't need to be getting my damn business, and you need to not let them in your business. I'm just saying. The court recognized that public would be better protected by criminal mayhem if officers could detain suspects for reasonable periods of time. Investigation, the absence of probable cause that would be required for to support an arrest. What did they just say? They're allowed to get you for a reasonable amount of time and mess with you without any kind of anything. To meet this perceived need, the court created a legal concept of investigative detention, which is known as a stop and frisk. The court held, hence, the law enforcement officers would have the right, consistent with the Fourth Amendment, to stop and detain and question. You mean to hold court in the street? Can I just go ahead and say it? Hold court in the street. Don't you have the right to remain silent? Don't you have the right for that attorney? Come on. Huh? Don't you have a right to prepare for your defense? What happened to all that? What happened to be secure in your persons? Your papers and your effects. What happened to that? Well, persons subject to criminal activity. They keep talking about criminal activity. Well, most folks are going along minding their own business, doing no criminal activity. And the police are trying to determine if they can get them for something, or get them talking, or get them to sign a ticket that didn't really happen. It's pathetic. As long as they possessed facts and reasonable reference drawn from those facts that amounted to reasonable suspicion that criminal activity may be present. This was considered a detention or investigation, not an arrest. A probable cause was not required. Right. So it's like what? Hitler's here all over again. And they're allowed to come look at your papers and do all these things and make you stand on one foot and touch your nose and count ABC. That's hogwash. Nowhere in the code or law or ordinance or act says you have to do that. Period. It's just unreal. So it's a successful tool. So now they want to go to someone and find out what the percentage is of lives saved because of what they did. They want to lie by percentages. Isn't that crazy? Stop and frisk is a tool for law enforcement. Has been particularly useful in addressing violent crimes problems of occurring nature and protecting officers' safety. Inner city gang wars occur with regularity in all major cities across the country. Gang members regularly carry firearms to protect themselves on their turf, and illegal drug operations from attacks orchestrated by rival gangs. That's probably true. It's not going on my street. It's not going on down the street next to the street. Why would things be applied to me? They don't apply to me. They apply to those gang members that the police catch out and find firearms on. This is not an overall, you got the permission to go do everything to everybody because the principles apply across the board. No. You see guys out, they're gang members and you're a police officer and one of them runs and you go and you frisk them and you find that gun, they're in trouble. That's the right damn thing. But, Mary Homemaker, and Uncle Harry aren't doing anything, but yet they think and feel they have the force of law, which is bogus, to come up and just pull you over and get you out and pat you down and do whatever they want to you. That's not right. And that's what's been done. It seems crazy. In 2013, this is 2019, halfway through it damn near, Professor at the Chapman University Law School made an interesting observation in the process defending the New York police. Well, how did he know? They called upon him to do this because he's an official person that's recognized as an educated person to tell you the truth, to give you a percentage. Used the stop and frisk investigative tool, the professor noted in 1991. 1991, what year is it? A lot of things have changed. A lot of people can't pull their pants up, can't spell their own damn names, and you're still applying it. Adopted a strategy for crime prevention that emphasized foot patrol and enforcing laws against minor criminal activity, so they can basically do whatever they want to you. We see it all the time on YouTube. We see it all the time. According to this professor, in 1994, the New York PD placed greater emphasis on stop and use and frisk, which targeted hotspots for criminal activity. Absolutely. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. So there's a lot of truth to this. It looks truth on its face. The professor reported that results from the emphasis on stop and frisk were quite dramatic. He stated that between 1991 and 2009, New York City experienced the broadest and deepest decline in violent crimes. Probably. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And they reported that in 2012, the New York City homicide rate dropped 31%. Yes. How many people died in my city and how many people was saved in my city? I'm nowhere near New York. I mean, this is crazy. And I'm not a person that can't compromise or doesn't have common sense. You know, I see what they're saying. The bad guys interested in maiming and killing other rival gangs and carry firearms further to their illegal goals. Absolutely. Nail those little suckers. Absolutely. Police officers were likely to stop and frisk them. Absolutely. Now, if I look suspicious and I was out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, or, you know, I was fumbling around, or I did something I wasn't supposed to be and they came up to me, fine. But if I'm not doing anything and it's 6 o'clock at night and I'm down getting gas and I'm talking to a friend and the police pull up and want to search our cars, it's ridiculous. It's not right. In order to avoid civil rights litigation, well, I wonder why it's civil rights. Because it's blacks and Mexicans too. That's why. And they're the ones, a lot of them carrying the guns out in those areas. This is who they're talking about. Evidence suppressing a public criticism, investigative detention must by accomplishment lawful investigation detention must adhere to the following constitutional points of law. Constitution is not law. Law is not law. It's codes, ordinances, and acts. Wake up. So they spell out the rules basically from the Terry stop, and you want to look up Terry versus Ohio and read it, and then shepherdize it and look for the latest cases and decisions that these people have put out. We go through a few of these things. The officer may approach a person in the public and attempt to engage them in conversation without suspicion that they have been involved in criminal activity. You mean they're on the buddy program? Why would they want to come up and talk to you? Their only job is to either get you with that pen and write out a report, or to use that pistol to get you to do what they want. Why would you talk to them? How is this, they got a buddy program going on? Because I'm not talking to them. You know, that's all they're about. You know, you got the right to remain silent, remember? Okay, number 2, the person approached without reasonable suspicion is not required to speak to the officer, produce identification, otherwise remain in the area. The person may simply walk away, but the officer has no right to detain, and there is no known as a mere encounter. So it's an attempt for them to do business with you and to write you a ticket or to take you to jail for nothing. So they can hold court with you is what it is. So says the activity has constitutional rights to stop and detain, seize, that the person reasonably period of time to investigate the situation. Do you mean to try to get them or force them into or scare them into a ticket? Or to saying they did something wrong? Or for them to twist up their words? They do it every day. Reasonable suspicion is present when the officer has articulable facts and reasonable references drawn from those facts indicated criminal activity may be present. Well, then do your damn job and arrest them. You know, instead of trying to search their car. I mean, if it warrants that, then do the damn thing the laws or the codes tell you to do. Get the warrant. I mean, come on. Reasonable suspicion can include a number of separate factors that has been taken together combined to support the officer's belief that criminal activity may be occurring. Well, then investigate and arrest them. These factors may include, but not limited to, the time of day. Now, this makes perfect sense. Reputation of geographical area. Reputation of person to be detained. And then it says gang member. Fugitive or excessive behavior, fighting. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're supposed to do that. An officer who detains a citizen for investigating purposes must prepare to cite all reasons why he or she is detained, the suspect, and should be written of them as soon as possible, practical to do so. You know, to make a written record. If you let them get to making a written record, they are writing you up. They are writing you up. So, you know, go take a look at this. It's Terry versus Ohio and the rules they're supposed to follow. You'll find it easy. I hope that this has enlightened you a little bit about the things that they do and their policies and policy enforcers. And this tells you, this case tells you, you don't have to go along with anything or give them anything or even stay there. You're allowed to leave. You know, but some cases they'll beat you down and they'll do all kinds of things to you. They can kill you. So you have to be careful. So take a look at this. That's my thought for today. And I hope you love the videos. Please give me thumbs up. You know, please subscribe to my channel. Please donate to my button. And we'll talk to you soon.